Hello and welcome to our University of St. Francis Education Degrees Coffee Chat. Today we're going to be talking about how USF helps start and advance teaching careers. My name is Dave, and happy to have everybody here with us today. So let's dig right into it. Let's talk about, well, what we're here to talk about for our coffee chat today. We're going to introduce some great speakers that we have from USF. We're going to talk quickly about what the education landscape in Indiana looks like and the need for qualified teachers. At that point, we'll dig into the USF education programs and the different programs that are available and the different components of those programs. We'll also take time to talk about the kind of support you can expect as a USF online education student, and we'll have a live Q&A session. So you see on your screen, there is a Q&A icon. You can click or tap that at any time and type in a question about anything that you see or hear. You don't have to wait for the Q&A portion to submit your question. Just anytime there's something you want to know more about, go ahead and type it in and we'll address it when we get to the Q&A portion. So with that, let's introduce our three speakers that we have with us today from the University of St. Francis. We're pleased to have two faculty members with us and one USF success coach. So let's go ahead and introduce them. First, we have Cayla Wise, Director of the MAT and Transition to Teaching for Elementary Licensure, third grade teacher for 8 years, so a pretty extensive K through 12 background. She's also a USF alum, earned her bachelor's degree at USF, a master's at Ball State, and is pursuing her doctorate. So she knows what it's like to try to further your education while maintaining a full-time job. So she can relate to you there. So Cayla, welcome. Glad to have you with us. Also joining us from USF is Brittany Straub. She's also a program director on the secondary licensure side of things. She's got that high school, secondary school background. She's also a USF alum like Cayla, got her master's at IPFW and is also pursuing her doctorate. So both of these ladies know what it's like to be an adult student trying to balance furthering your education with maintaining your work life and life's other obligations. And so some great relatability there. So Brittany, welcome. Our final speaker joining us today is Tyhanna Harrison, a success coach at the University of St. Francis. You'll learn what a success coach does a little bit later on. She's been in that role for about 15 years total. So supporting students and helping them to achieve their goals. And Tyhanna specifically works with the education degree. So any degree that you choose that we talk about here today, Tyhanna will be your point person to help you get and stay on the road to success. And so Cayla, Brittany, Tyhanna, welcome. So glad to have you with us today. And so let's jump right in. Cayla, I believe you are kicking us off with giving a sense of kind of the need for teachers within the state of Indiana and more stats around that. So I'll pass the time to you.
Absolutely. Welcome for those of you that are joining us. One of the questions you may be asking yourself today, if you are, on this coffee chat with us, why teaching? Why now? Something has called you to join us today and to consider this career. So some things that we might take into consideration. Fort Wayne Community Schools, which is situated close to the University of St. Francis, has 30,000 students alone. This is one of Indiana's largest districts. So you may be considering, how could I make an impact on one or many of those students' lives? And if that's something that is interesting to you, that you feel called to do, then teaching certainly may be the career path that you need to choose. Something else to consider, currently we are upwards of 600 open positions in the state of Indiana. So certainly there is a high need, K-12, general education, special education, for substitute positions, as well as full-time, long-term positions in the classroom. Lastly, something that has happened over the last year and a half is the COVID pandemic. And since the pandemic has started, we have seen an uptick of teachers who are maybe taking leave or have decided to possibly leave the profession a little earlier than necessary, or who have retired. And so that landscape for open positions is going to continue to grow over the next several years. And we're looking at a 3 to 4% uptick in openings by 2028. So if you are joining us, you may also be considering, what about a master's? Why should I consider getting a master's in teaching? So here's some information to kind of back up the benefits of getting a master's. One of that, you will be very knowledgeable in the content. We definitely give you an in-depth look at teaching, but there's also the benefit of pay. I believe it's around it. Well, it's 88% of Indiana schools do offer some type of increase in pay for teachers who do get their masters. Beginning master's teachers first year can, expect around $2,700 increase in pay, while on the regular normal year, you can expect around $7,300 more per salary year.
Okay, so you might be asking what we offer at USF. We're really proud of our programs here, and we have, you see 3 buckets here: Master of Arts in Teaching, or MAT, that typically takes 12 to 24 months. You can do elementary or secondary with that track. We also have a Master of Science in Education for special education, and you can do mild intervention or intense in that area, or both. The program, again, 12 to 24 months, and the program itself is the same whether you license in P through 3, K through 6, 5 through 12, or P through 12, but the field experiences would be different depending on kind of which track you want to go there. And then transition to teaching. So this is actually a non-degree program. You would not get a master's with this, but it does meet the minimum requirements that Indiana requires for licensure. And again, you can choose elementary, secondary, or special ed. And then also, just a reminder, mild or intense, or both for special ed. Okay, so we also have non-licensure programs. So I just went over the licensure options, and then we have several non-licensure programs for current teachers. So this would be a way to advance your career with USF. We have Master of Arts in Teaching, again, same 12 to 24 months, elementary or secondary. It's just the non-licensing option. So you would still take the normal courses that any MAT student takes. You just would not be licensing. This would be more for advancing your career. Same thing then with the Master of Science in Special Ed. But then something specific to just our non-licensure options would be either the certificate in online teaching or the Master of Online Teaching. So we started this program fall of 2021 for the certificate, and then we will run our masters starting in January, this coming January. And the certificate is 12 credits, so 4 courses. The Master of Online Teaching includes that certificate. So those same 4 courses are within that program, but it also includes several of our MAT courses from our other master's programs. The Master of Online Teaching is for P through 16. So preschool through all the way through college teaching. And something that we really like to point out about this is it's not just for online teachers. This really would be an option for advancing your career if you are interested in virtual teaching or blended, the blended environment, really any way of advancing your online pedagogy. And as we know with the pandemic, there's more than that than ever before.
My name is Tyhanna Harrison, and I'm going to go over with you about the different supports that you will receive as a student here with the University of St. Francis. The first person that you will talk with is going to be an enrollment coach. An enrollment coach is going to be there to help you decide which of the programs are going to be best for you, go over any preliminary questions, what area you want to license if you're doing secondary, talk about anything that regarding admissions and preparing you for missions. The next thing that they will discuss, introduce you to, is our transcript specialist. That individual will work with you on obtaining any transcripts that you need to request. They will also take care of helping you pay for those if there's something that you need as well. They will ensure that you get all the transcript documents that you need in order to apply here to USF to be able to be admitted into the program. Next that you will work with is myself, your success coach. I'm going to be here every step of the way from the time that you're admitted all the way to graduation, and also helping you with making sure that you've passed your licensing exams in order to be licensed in the area you're looking to license. As a success coach, I wear many different hats. I will go over resources, education, resource course that you'll have access to, as well as just answering those preliminary questions that you have about the program and making sure that you are aware of everything that you need from start to finish. You'll also work with a financial aid team. Our financial aid department will go over any questions that you have if you're deciding to take out student loans, making sure that you have all the documents you need in order to apply for federal financial aid as well. Now, we do have some career and resource guides that you can use. We have our library. We have Handshake, which is where you can go in and start applying for different positions where employers have reached out to us and said, hey, we're looking for people for our company or for our school district, and you'll be able to go on there and apply for jobs if you are looking for positions. Also, our Career Resource Center has where you could do resume interview, mock interviews, resume building, really be able to ask them any questions to help you with your future career. So that is the support that we provide our students from start to finish.
All right, excellent. Brittany, Cayla, Tyhanna, thank you so much for sharing with us thus far. So before we get into the Q&A portion, just some quick reminders. So classes start January 17th, and you think, that's still a little bit of a ways away. Now's the time to start getting ready, get everything buttoned up before the holidays. And so you can start classes on January 17th. A big reason for that is that we're offering free books for your first class up to $125 if you start classes on that day. And so for more details about the programs and about that free book offer, give us a call, 888-699-8082, or send us an email, info@online.sf.edu. That'll connect you with one of the enrollment coaches that Tyhanna mentioned, who can help answer your questions and help you find the right program for you. I'm putting that information in the chat as well for you to do a quick copy and paste, put it in your phone, whatever you'd like. We've been recording this webinar. We're going to post it on YouTube for you to be able to share this with anybody else who you think might be interested in a online teaching degree from the University of St. Francis, and again, take advantage of that free book offer. So with that, let's move to the Q&A portion. If you joined us a little bit late, that's perfectly fine. Use the Q&A icon on your screen to be able to submit a question about anything that you've seen so far, just anything else that's on your mind. We've got some questions already. So ladies, I will start sending them your way. One thing that I know when we've done this webinar in the past that we haven't talked about a lot yet is that kind of student teaching clinical internship component. And so Brittany and Cayla, I'm hoping you can help fill us in on a couple questions around that in terms of, Brittany, I'll start with you. Just kind of dig into that student teaching clinical internship piece, how it may differ by program. And then, especially if, with the nature of, there's more kind of online teaching now, if there were, say, an outbreak and of COVID and schools have to shift online or whatever it is, just talk through that student teaching piece and how COVID might change or impact that and what to be cognizant of as you complete that requirement.
Yeah. So when we talk about student teaching, I'll first mention practicum, because that really is the requirement before student teaching takes place. And that is 120 hours in your area of licensure. So if you are special education, obviously it'll take place in mild or intense, whichever you are seeking, or both. And then, or elementary or secondary. Within secondary, it is going to be specific to English or math, whatever content you are seeking. And so the practicum will take place first. Following that semester is clinical internship, also called student teaching. It's one and the same. And that really is taking over the classroom for 16 weeks for that cooperating teacher. That also is going to be in your area of licensure. And specifically when it comes to the pandemic, we have had to be very creative with some of our field experiences, but basically what happens is however that district chooses to handle the quarantine or the virtual setting, you would be taking that role from that teacher as you are stepping in clinical internships. So if they're in a all virtual environment, that's what you're doing, you're teaching virtually. If they're blended, same thing. So you'd really be stepping into however that teacher would be required to handle it.
Okay, good deal. Great insight. Thanks, Brittany.
Can I just interject here?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
This is Dr. Torlone, Director of Grad Field. I just want to make the point, which may already be understood, that USF does find these placements for our teacher candidates. I know some programs require candidates to find their own placements. We do that work for them.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dan. And Cayla, this actually leads me to kind of the next question that I'm seeing. So in terms of kind of helping to make those placements, Cayla, I'm seeing a question. Can I student teach at my child's school? Is that possible to be able to be placed where your kids are teaching or where your kids are going to school?
That is a great question, and we have had that question before. Typically, we will not place a candidate in the same school as their child. Sometimes, depending on the size of the district, it is possible that you could be placed in a neighboring school that is within that same district. As Dr. Torlone talked about, we do placements for you, and that would be a conversation that you would work with him on to figure out what the best plan of action would be, to avoid any conflict of interest or anything that may be an uncomfortable situation that may arise. So really one-on-one situation, that's something you would work out with the field director.
Okay, excellent, great insight. Let's see, I'm seeing another question come in. It says, I'm working under an emergency license and I'm currently working at a small adult school. Can I complete my practicum in student teaching here? Either Brittany or Cayla, how would you answer that?
I think to know more about that would be helpful. Your practicum and internship need to be in the area that you are seeking licensure. We can't license an individual without having those hours for practicum and then the 16 weeks full-time in that area first. And so I think, again, that would be an individual conversation. We try to get creative and do what's best for each student, but we would just need to make sure that they are truly teaching and being prepared in that area of licensure. So I think more details would be needed to answer that question.
Okay. All right. And so again, another great reason to give us a call, speak with an enrollment coach, get with a success coach, and start leaning into that support team to be able to dig in more to that specific situation. But thanks for sharing. Tyhanna, I haven't sent any questions your way yet. So here's one that would start. You talked about the different support systems that are available. What about things like tutoring? Someone needs help with a particularly tough class or assignment. What sort of resources are available to folks in that way?
So when it comes to tutoring or support with an assignment, your instructors are your best resources. We do have tutoring for things like APA formatting or grammar, or if you want someone just to review your assignment for grammar, the structuring of the assignment, we do have something called Smart Thinking. But any questions that comes with the content of the course itself, I really, really recommend you reach out to your professor and just make sure you're doing it proactively.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for that, Tyhanna. I've got a couple questions about kind of prerequisites or things in order to enter the program. Cayla, let me send this one your way. Do you have to take like the CASA exam or Praxis or other sorts of things before being able to enter into the program? How would you answer that?
Yeah, that's another really good question. The CASA exam was a prior requirement. Back, I think 2019, Indiana has since done away with that requirement. So that is no longer required to enter a program. The Praxis exams are not required to enter into one of our programs. However, for secondary licensure, a candidate would need to pass the Praxis exam in their content area before entering practicum, which Brittany talked about earlier. For special education and elementary education, those exams would not be taken until a candidate is ready to license.
Okay, excellent, great insight, thank you. Speaking of prerequisites or requirements to enter the program, Tyhanna, let me send this question your way. It says, how recent must my bachelor's be for the purposes of enrolling in the transition to teaching or MAT? So say someone, it's been 5, 10, 15, 20 years since they graduated with a bachelor's. Is there some sort of time limit in terms of you have to have earned that bachelor's within the last X number of years? How would you answer that question?
The answer to that question, and this is a really good question, is no. So your bachelor's degree does not have to be within a certain amount of years, just as long as you went to a nationally accredited institution. The only time that that comes in is when it involves transfer credit, and that has to be within 5 years of you completing the program. So we do not take transfer credit for any classes past 5 years.
Okay, that's good to know. And that actually leads me right into my next question, which is a little bit more about transfer credits. Brittany, I know you know a little bit more about this. Just speak more about type of credit that could be considered for transfer. Obviously, Tyhanna said in the last 5 years. Just enlighten us a little bit more on that transfer piece.
Yeah, we take 6 to 12 credits depending on what program you are transferring into. So the transition to teaching program would take 6 credits. And then the MAT, whether that's elementary or secondary, would be 9 graduate credits. And then the Master of Science in Education would take 12 graduate credits. And again, those would just have to be from an accredited university within the last 5 years.
Okay, excellent, good deal. A great way to help finish faster and save on tuition by transferring those credits for sure. And again, as you connect with our enrollment and success coaches, we'll be able to help get that process going on getting that credit for it. We've got time for a couple more questions. So if you haven't already, be sure to submit your question through the Q&A for anything else that's still on your mind. Tyhanna, I'm going to come back your way. You talked about that there's a financial aid team at USF. You've just seen questions digging into a little bit more details about financial aid. Is there any kind of COVID impact to financial aid? And then what sort of options are available? Are there, say, for the non-licensure programs, are there grants available to those who are already teachers, or just any sort of other financial aid options that we can tell folks about?
Yes, this is a really good question. So financial aid has not been impacted by COVID-19. All students should be able to go online, fill out their FAFSA, master promissory note, and entrance counseling. And once they fill out those documents, then the financial aid department will be able to let them know where they stand, send them out an offer letter, and then that way they'll know how much funding they will get. When it comes to grants or scholarships, that is going to depend on the student applying for those scholarships. USF does not have any scholarships for our master's or scholarships or grants for our master's or transition to teaching program, but that doesn't mean that you cannot apply for outside grants or scholarships. When the Department of Education does come out with different grants or scholarships that they're offering to our students, we send that information out to students so that they're able to have it and have the option to apply, as well as when once a student is admitted, I will also send them a list of scholarships that they could also apply for.
All right, excellent. Thanks for that, Tyhanna. Cayla, I'm going to send this next one your way. I mentioned in the beginning as we were introducing that both you and Brittany know what it's like to try to further your education while maintaining your work and other responsibilities. And so I'm seeing a question about, how much time outside of class can I expect to be working on assignments? Just trying to help strike that balance, make sure that they're making progress on their courses while still making time for everything else in their life. So what sort of expectation would you give to folks with that question?
Absolutely. So most of our courses are going to be structured in an asynchronous format. And they're structured in modules, and you will take those modules as you progress in the 8-week or the 16-week courses. So with that being said, a lot of that work does rest on you being able to pace yourself and work through that content. Professors are certainly there to support you. Your classmates are there to support you as well. But the independent work time weekly, I would say you're looking at 5 to 6 hours per course that you're taking.
All right, good deal. And Brittany, just kind of piggybacking off of that, just any other tips or any advice that you've given to students over the years in terms of, hey, how can I maintain that sort of balance? How can I keep furthering my education and make sure that I've got time for my work, my family, and my other responsibilities? What sort of counsel have you given students over the years?
You know, all, as Cayla said, we all try to be really understanding, but there will be deadlines, and so we like to tell our students to plan early, make time early on in the week. Just kind of as an example, you know, as you start to look at assignments and questions come up, if you're starting an assignment on Saturday before it's due Sunday, that doesn't leave much time to hear back from a professor. And so the students who we see who are most successful really look at what they have in the week ahead of them really early on, maybe Monday, Tuesday of the week, and then chug away at it as they go. That way they're not leaving that for last minute.
Okay, great insight. I think we got time for one more question, and Cayla, I'm going to send it to you. Obviously, we've been talking so much about helping teachers start and advance their careers, but I'm seeing a question, you know, can I do something with these degrees other than become a teacher? Has anybody ever asked you that, or what other sort of options are there for folks who are earning these degrees other than teaching?
Yes, so there are a ton of different options that you can use a teaching degree with. As I mentioned at the beginning, you know, if you're considering that you feel called to make an impact, you know, on someone's life, that can happen in many different areas. We have had individuals who have a teaching license who go on to work in more of a corporate setting. They may be creating training materials or curriculum, you know, for that business or for that setting. We also have individuals who have gone into healthcare and have done some of those trainings and preparation for nurses within the hospital. There's also other options, you know, community-based organizations that are always in need of educators, you know, whether you teach the content area that you come through our program with, or whether you're teaching something else outside of that. The preparation from our program allows you to understand, you know, the basis of teaching and what it takes to impact individuals' lives.
All right, fantastic. Well, that's all the questions that I see. And so one last time, I'll thank Cayla, Brittany, and Tyhanna for all of your time and your answers. And thanks to all of you for your questions and for joining us today. So one last time before we wrap up, again, classes start on January 17th. And so now is the time to start getting things in order, get it wrapped up before the holidays so that you're ready to start with us on the 17th. And a reminder that you get free books for your first class up to $125 when you start classes that day. And so for more details about these programs, about the free book offer, and about any other questions that you may have about the education degrees at the University of St. Francis, give us a call, 888-699-8082, or send us an email, info@online.sf.edu. And again, I've put those in the chat for you to copy paste really quick. Make sure you've got that on hand so you can reach out with any other questions that you have. And again, we'll post this webinar on YouTube so that you can share it with anybody else who's interested. So again, thanks to all of you for your time and attention today. And I hope you have a great rest of your day and week. Take care, everybody.